You know what's scarier than failure? Not even daring to fail. The real nightmare isn't falling flat on your face. It's never stepping forward because you're too scared you might trip, and not even in public. Just in your room, alone, in pajamas. Classic. Let me paint you a picture. The other day, I spent 3 hours trying to choose between two phones. Not because they were wildly different, just, what if I picked the wrong one? What if I spent $100 more and still ended up with a camera that made me look like a potato? What if I picked the slightly heavier one and destroyed my wrist forever? What if Apple released a new model tomorrow and I was instantly labeled obsolete? Don't even get me started on toothpaste. Whitening or enamel repair, minty fresh or glacier breeze. What even is a glacier breeze, and why do I want it in my mouth? This is the exhausting, over-caffeinated brain of a perfectionist. Do you know how many times I've rewritten this script? 7. And that's just the intro. Most of us aren't scared of doing something wrong. We're scared of being someone who does something wrong. Like the guy who triple checks his PowerPoint at 3 a.m. because what if there's a typo on slide 14? Or the girl who's had a business idea for 2 years, but won't start because her logo isn't quite minimalist enough. Or me, stressing over whether I boiled water at the optimal antioxidant extraction temperature for my green tea. It's a problem. So why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we treat mistakes like public humiliation? Because at some point, we bought into this fantasy that there's one perfect job, one perfect decision, one perfect version of you, and anything less is a failure. If we don't choose the best, fastest, smartest option, we're doomed. Mediocre. Probably living alone with 7 half-dead succulents. And then we say things like, I'm just not ready yet. Let me do a bit more research. I can't start until it's perfect. Spoiler, it's never perfect. Perfectionism is just procrastination wearing a nice suit. It's fear holding a clipboard, telling you, let's optimize this one more time before we begin. And while you're still optimizing, life is walking past you, eating chips and minding its own business. You're stuck in place, still thinking, still tweaking, still tired, and probably still hungry, because let's face it, all this overthinking is exhausting. And now the spreadsheet you made comparing 17 types of yoga mats as a typo is cell B6. Tragic. Why you're afraid to make mistakes and why that's the real problem. You ever spend so long researching a product that you forget why you needed it in the first place? Like, I once spent half a year, comparing phone models, specs, price points, brand reputation, camera test reviews, drop tests, durability under lab conditions. I basically earned a PhD in phone shopping. And when I actually picked one, I immediately regretted it, obviously, because someone always posts a better deal 3 days later. It's like the universe knows and just wants to rub it in. But the worst part wasn't the purchase, it was the emotional hangover of, did I make the wrong choice? Welcome to the cult of the best. In this cult, good enough is a dirty word. You don't just want a good job, you need your dream job. You don't just want a house, you want the perfect natural lighting, open plan kitchen, minimal commute, and feng shui approved floor plan. And when you don't get it, you spiral into existential dread like, maybe I'm just not meant to be happy. Psychologists actually have names for this. There's the maximizer, someone who always tries to find the best of the best, and the satisficer, someone who's fine with good enough. Guess which one is more miserable? Yep, the maximizer. The person who spends the most time, effort, and emotional bandwidth chasing the absolute best is also the most likely to regret their decision after. It's like ordering a dish at a restaurant, then spending the entire meal staring at what the person next to you order, whispering, I should have gone with the fish. Meanwhile, the satisficer is living their best life with a slightly soggy sandwich and zero emotional baggage. And here's the kicker. Maximizers often do make better choices objectively. They research more, they compare more, they dig deeper, but they're also more anxious, less happy, more likely to spiral into overthinking. They're haunted by the ghost of what if, because chasing perfection is exhausting. You never arrive. You're just constantly calculating, constantly judging, constantly doubting. And the punchline, trying to be perfect is the most imperfect thing you can do. So here's a fun fact, making mistakes might actually make you better. I know, Scandalous, especially if you were raised on the sacred doctrine of 100 marks or you're a disgrace to this family. But there's research, like real science stuff. Smart people in lab coats ran experiments to prove it. One of my favorites, a psychology study split people into 3 groups. Group A was told, don't make any mistakes. Group B, mistakes happen, it's okay. Group C, please make at least one mistake. Actually, go wild. Make a few. Guess which group gave the best presentations? Group C, the mistake makers, the chaos gremlins, the ones who walked in thinking, let's see what happens if I totally mess this up. They were relaxed. They were funny. They were real. And audiences loved them. Because when you stop trying to be perfect, you actually start being you. And people like you way more than they like some robotic perfection simulator. You ever notice how your favorite moments from a live concert are when the singer messes up a lyric and laughs it off? Or your favorite bloopers from a show are way better than the final cut? That's because we love imperfection in others, we just hate it in ourselves. And that's the double standard. We celebrate celebrities who joke about their failures, who trip on red carpets, who post ugly crying selfies and say, well, life's a mess. But when it's our turn to screw up, we treat it like a crime. We replay it in our heads. We write imaginary apology speeches. We swear we'll never open our mouths in public again without a 37-slide rehearsal plan. Meanwhile, the world's already moved on and is watching cat videos. So maybe, just maybe, your next mistake won't be a disaster. Maybe it's the moment people actually connect with you. Maybe it's where the real magic starts. Let's go back in time. You're 7 years old. You just got a math test back. 98 out of 100, you're buzzing. 2 whole stickers, a gold star. The paper even smells like victory. You run home, slap it down on the table, and beam at your dad. He looks at it for 0.3 seconds and goes, where did those 2 marks go? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how a tiny seed called never enough gets planted in your brain. Suddenly, 98 isn't something to celebrate, it's something to fix. And from that moment on, everything becomes a performance. You can't just draw a dog, it has to be the best dog. You can't just write a story, it needs to win a national essay competition and make your English teacher cry. You can't just make a decision, you need to analyze every possible outcome in a spreadsheet with conditional formatting. And that's not even the worst part. You like it. We carry that childhood wiring into adulthood like a badge of honor. I'm just detail-oriented. I have high standards. I can't help it. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. No, Susan, you're terrified of disappointing your year-to teacher from 1999. And I get it. We were raised on try harder, be better, and don't mess this up. We were taught that mistakes were dangerous, that if you weren't careful, your one misstep would ruin your life. Miss a deadline, you're lazy, ask a dumb question, you're stupid, change your mind, you're flaky, cry during a meeting, you're unprofessional, but also possibly human. And slowly, our tolerance for being human disappears. We don't just avoid mistakes, we avoid living. We don't speak out. We don't ask out our crush. We don't start that side hustle. We just wait for the perfect time, the perfect plan, the perfect version of us that never arrives. And the real kicker, all this effort to not mess up ends up messing us up even more, because now we're anxious and stuck, tired and unsure, over-researched and underlived. Perfect on paper, paralyzed in real life. Let's play a game. Think back to something embarrassing you did. Not I forgot to reply to an email embarrassing. I'm talking full body cringe. Maybe you called your boss mom. Maybe you sent a text meant for your best friend. To your ex, maybe you confidently used a word in a meeting that you absolutely didn't know the meaning of. But hey, it sounded fancy. At the time, mortifying. Now, a party story. That's the wild thing about mistakes. They almost always become either a great memory or be a great lesson. Or, if you're really lucky, see both. But in the moment, we act like the world will explode. Like we'll be banned from society. Our reputation in ruins, our LinkedIn deleted by the algorithm out of shame. And yet, somehow, we survive. You bomb a presentation. You learn what not to do next time. You start a business and no one buys anything, you get better at selling. Or you start a new one, You go to the gym into different shoes. Okay, that one's just funny. The point is, messing up is how we move forward. It's the tuition fee of real life. You pay in awkwardness, you gain experience. And it's so much more effective than trying to avoid all risk forever. Because guess what? You can't bulletproof your way through life. You can't spreadsheet your way into certainty. And no, watching 87 hours of YouTube reviews will not guarantee you pick the right rice cooker. At some point, you just have to do the thing. And yes, sometimes you'll fail, but other times, you'll stumble into something amazing, all because you weren't afraid to mess up. Here's the twist. The people who actually look the most confident, they're not the ones who never fail. They're the ones who failed so often, it just doesn't scare them anymore. They've built up emotional calluses, and that makes them unstoppable. Because when you're no longer afraid to mess up, everything becomes a playground, a lab, a live concert with broken mix and wrong notes, but still unforgettable. Part 6. Stop aiming for perfect, aim for possible. So how do we escape the clutches of perfectionism? How do we stop white-knuckling every decision like it's the last rose ceremony on The Bachelor? Well, it starts with a simple shift, not don't care, and not do it terribly on purpose, but this, start aiming for possible, not perfect. Because perfect is a moving target, it's smoke. It's the Wi-Fi signal at your friend's house, never quite stable. But possible, that's real, that's doable. That's progress. When you aim for possible, you give yourself permission to start, you let yourself experiment. You allow room for error, which is where all the good stuff grows. You don't wait until you've read 12 books on productivity to write the first sentence. You don't stall your small business until you've built a 17-tab financial model. You don't wait for the stars to align before you take that awkward, exciting, slightly terrifying first step. You just begin, and beginning is a lot less scary when you stop expecting yourself to be perfect. It's like being a toddler again. When you were 2 years old, did you stress about the right way to walk? Did you hold meetings with your stuffed animals to create a strategic plan? Did you give up after the first faceplant? Nope. You got up. You waddled. You fell over. You giggled. You got up again. And now look at you. Walking like a champ. Possibly even running in matching shoes. So maybe the real secret is this. We're not supposed to be flawless. We're supposed to be learning. We're supposed to trip, mess up, laugh, learn, adjust, and do it all again. A little better, a little braver, a little bolder. So if you're out there right now, paralyzed by the fear of screwing up, whether it's giving a presentation, starting a project, or just sending an email without rereading it 17 times, try this. Deliberately mess up, seriously. Make one tiny mistake, just to prove you can survive it. Send the text without a full stop. Wear socks that almost match. Take a phone based on vibes, not specs. Then watch what happens. Nothing explodes. You don't get banished. No one builds a shrine to your shame. Instead, you get your life back. You get momentum. You get confidence. You get freedom. Because the most dangerous thing isn't failure. It's never even getting close enough to fail. So go make that mistake. Make it beautifully. Make it proudly. And then keep going. Because done is better than perfect, and life is way more fun when you let yourself mess it up a little.